Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the chance to be here this evening. My name is Dominic Cardy. I'm leader of New Brunswick's New Democrats, and I've got a couple of remarks of my own. But first, I've been asked to bring greetings from Tom Mulcair, the leader of Her Majesty's official opposition, and also from Phil Toon, who's the Member of Parliament for Gaspésie-Île-de-la-Madeleine, and who's the fisheries critic for the NDP for the East Coast fisheries. So he's asked me if he could read a statement. He was hoping to be able to make it here this evening, but he had scheduling commitments in his riding. So first, I'm sorry. I'm now going to pretend to be Phil Toon. He's much better looking than I am, but I'll do my best. I'm sorry I was not able to be here today. I'm glad to have this opportunity to deliver this message, thanks to my friend and colleague, Dominic Cardy. When I look at all the cuts that have been made to science in this country, I keep thinking that the last thing this government wants is for people to know the facts. It would seem they don't even know the facts themselves. In my view, this Conservative government's time in office will be known as an age of scientific darkness. Over the past year, 12 research organizations and programs have been eliminated in a number of areas, including Environment Canada and Fisheries and Oceans Canada. Many research centres will be axed. The Freshwater Institute in Winnipeg, which works in cooperation with the Experimental Lakes Area in Ontario, the Bedford Institute of Oceanography in Dartmouth, the Institute of Ocean Sciences in British Columbia, the Gulf Fisheries Centre in Moncton, and the Maurice Lamontagne Institute in Montjoly in the Gaspé, Phil's constituency. The St.Andrews Biological Station is another example of these reckless cuts. For more than 100 years, the station has provided inestimable scientific knowledge. Now, 5 jobs will be lost, important programs will be cut. How will DFO be able to protect our oceans without scientific knowledge is beyond understanding. If the Conservatives doubt the importance of this knowledge, they should consider what happened to the groundfish stocks. A lack of essential scientific information was a major contributor to that collapse. The Conservatives' decision to eliminate fish habitat protection from the Fisheries Act proves they do not care about the sustainability of fish stocks. We have to protect the whole ecosystem if we want to protect fish populations. If the government eliminates the fleet separation policy, huge processing ships will move in which that could easily result in the same problems we experienced in the 1990s. We must not let this happen again. We need unbiased, government-funded science. The government is about to trigger a brain drain. If we lose our scientists, when and how will we ever get them back? The Conservatives, frankly, need to back off on this. They need to enhance scientific program financing for the sake of our future. It is their responsibility as our government to protect our oceans, our resources, and our environment. But they're failing in this primary responsibility. We need a new approach in Ottawa, and invite any of you to contact me or my other New Democrat colleagues so together we can bring balance back to environmental management in Canada. Thank you. I want to add briefly to this by talking about 2 subjects that link together everything else that we've heard this evening. The subject of values, and communities. This is a small town. My parents live here. They're in the audience this evening. And one of the reasons that they came here is because it's a place that offers a sense of community. It's a vibrant place. And this center has been part of that for 100 years. It's one of the reasons why this is an attractive place to come. It's not just the tourists who want to come in the summertime. It's not just the hotels. And the threat that this government is posing to this community with these cuts can't be underestimated. Because, as Phil Toon said in his comments, where are these scientists going to go? Where are the librarians going to go? Of course, we know when they go on EI, now according to the new EI laws, they'll have to drive at least an hour and a half away to get jobs, otherwise they'll end up on welfare. So we've got this combination of attacks on what I view as being Canadian values, with our communities being the core of those values. That if we can't find some way to turn back what Dominic LeBlanc, and I think that it's important to note here that we have agreement across the political spectrum, including, I know, from the vast majority of people who've always voted Conservative in this province, that this is not the Canada that we believe in. This is not the Canada that our parents fought for, our grandparents fought for. And that when, as Dominic points out, he goes on CBC radio for a panel and there's no conservative. And then I go up to the Woodstock airport, because I'm a pilot in my spare time, and I see Mike Allen up there at a barbecue to talk about something that I think is a bit ironic about the history of the Commonwealth Air Training Program. It's the program in World War II when we trained over 200,000 pilots to defend freedom, to fight against fascism in Europe. But he doesn't have time, and none of the other conservatives have got the time, to come and talk about why there's an ideological attack against our communities, why Canadian values are being undermined. And it's that message that we need to get out, because it was also mentioned earlier about how we're facing the prospect of not only these cuts and closures, but the building of pipelines across the west of our country and other attacks. They don't make any sense. We talked about how these don't make any sense economically. It's nothing to do with economics. It's about ideology. But we have a choice here. And we have power as citizens in a country where we still have a degree of freedom to make sure that that pipeline is not built this year, next year, or in future years, that these cuts do not go through, that the other cuts that this government is proposing do not go through, because we can think of better ways to run this country. But that takes the responsibility of all of us to make sure that we don't just leave this meeting this evening thinking, well, that was nice, at least there's some other people who agree with me. That we put the time and effort in, whether it's any one of the political parties represented here, whether it's with the Conservative Party to try and drag them back to the world of reason, or whether it's with a non-profit group like the Conservation Council. Take any avenue you can. Take your time and your effort to make sure that we stop these cuts. So I want to close with what I hope is a representation of, I think, a real New Brunswick value, which is opening my arms out to an old friend of mine, John Williamson, who I went to school with. He's a friend of mine. I'm still proud to say he's a friend of mine. Clearly, we have very serious disagreements about just about everything. But this is not Ronald Reagan's America, John. This is not Margaret Thatcher's England. This is Canada, it's New Brunswick. And here, when you've got a disagreement with people, you come and you sit down with us and you hash it out, because we're a small place and that's how we get the job done here. Don't be co-opted by Stephen Harper. It's intimidating having sitting there with the crown on his head. Don't be co-opted by Stephen Harper. Come and listen to the people who gave you your job. You'll get some good ideas, and maybe you can convince Mr. Harper to take off his crown and sit down and listen to the rest of us and get this place back on track again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dominic, and you can pass on our appreciation to Philippe for his words. Just to let everybody know that John Williamson was invited, and as you have heard from the various panel members, I will confirm that he's declined to participate today, so it was his option to not